Mbaya.
Niweke nini?
Mawe.
Niweke nini?
Mawe.
Niweke nini?
Mawe.
Bas, ni mbaya. Wetse. Msisahau kuchukua kura.
Well, good morning, Kenya. Welcome to Hold My Mic, the only show brave enough to open the national group WhatsApp and actually read the messages out loud. Because if you've tried following the news this week, you already know our politics moves faster than a Nairobi border through traffic. Zing, 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 zing. 1 minute it's a stadium, the next minute it's a reshuffle. By lunchtime, someone has been tear-gassed or apparently tear-gassed themselves. And somewhere in between, there is always a press conference explaining that what you saw is not what you saw. So today, we are doing what responsible citizens do. We sit down, we breathe in cautiously and ask, does this explanation make sense? Because in this country, confusion is absolutely free, but clarity, now that one comes with a fuel levy. My name is Willis Raburu. We begin! Drop the beat down!
Hold my mic, hold my mic, hold my mic, yo, hold my mic, hey, hold my mic, hold my mic, hey, hold my mic, hold my mic.
So, this week, this is the all-new phrase when someone gets on your nerve. And when you show up to the party that is live, make sure you come with a DJ.
DJ hakuna. Hatuna DJ.
DJ.
But more on that later, so stick around to the very end. All right, Kenya, so we've all had the Talanta Stadium, right? We've all heard of it. That new shiny 60,000-seater stadium the government is building on Gong Road for the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations. The one that promises world-class football, skyboxes, and maybe a place to host your cousin's wedding if the pitch isn't booked and you're a Nigerian person. You know what I mean?
We trusted the process. Now look. See for yourselves. Talanta Stadium.
Well, according to a fresh audit report from the Auditor General, all hail the Auditor General, this stadium's price tag may have more zeros than logic. That's because the cost of constructing the Talanta Sports City project appears to have been inflated by a staggering 10.85 billion shillings, nearly one-third above the budget that Parliament approved. Now, here are the numbers for context. So the National Treasury originally approved 35 billion Kenya shillings to fund the stadium over 6 years under the Sports and Arts Social Development Fund, that is the SASDF. But the actual contract later signed with a foreign contractor came in at 45.85 billion shillings. Now that means an unsupported price variation of 10.85 billion shillings and no clear explanation for that tremendous jump. Yes, over 10 billion shillings more than planned, and nobody thought it was necessary to explain to the taxpayers why. And this wasn't a minor oversight. The Auditor General's report specifically flagged procurement violations, including the fact that the contract was awarded without the required clearance from the Attorney General's office for contracts exceeding 5 billion shillings. Well, let's break this down a bit more because numbers without context are just loud digits. Now first, direct procurement was used to build Talanta Stadium, even though the law says open tendering should be the default method, unless there's an urgent need or a genuine monopoly. Now neither was demonstrated. Second, the Ministry of Sports transferred procurement responsibility and about 2 billion shillings to the Ministry of Defense before the award was signed, which complicates oversight even further. And then, as of mid-2025, the stadium was only about 44% complete. Yet, roughly 2 billion shillings had already been paid, which means we're already paying for unfinished work, and taxpayers could still be on the hook for interest penalties if payments to the contractor aren't timely. Now, here is where this turns into a big sports project, and it turns it from that to a serious public concern matter. That extra 10.85 billion shillings is not a small allowance for bread and soda at the stadium opening. That 10.85 billion shillings is enough to fund nearly 9.5 kilometers of dual carriageway road construction on any major highway except Thika Superhighway, which was already done. Sawaruto. 10.58 billion shillings is enough to support education of millions of students for an entire year. Students who are stuck home right now due to lack of school fees. And the Auditor General's report didn't just point to price inflation. No. It also questioned transparency and value for money in how the project was financed and structured. And it now recommends a special audit to dig deeper and to determine whether taxpayers are actually getting the benefit they were promised. Because right now, from an accounting perspective, this project looks like the stadium we ordered, the price we didn't budget for, and the explanation we still haven't seen. Now, in a country where schools lack classrooms, where roads need repairs, and where everyday Kenyans are watching costs rise on essentials daily, this isn't just a construction update. This is a fine print financial scandal. It's a reminder that whether it's stadiums, houses, healthcare, housing loans, state house, whatever it is, without transparent accounting and public oversight, we, the taxpayers, end up paying for projects we don't fully understand. And here's the cruel poetry of it all. They'll cut the ribbon, they'll release balloons, they'll fly drones over a shiny pitch and tell us, look what we built for you. Meanwhile, we are the ones who quietly built it for them with VAT, pay, fuel levy, and that mysterious miscellaneous charge that shows up like an uninvited uncle at every bill. Because in Kenya, the grass in the stadium might be artificial, but the spending, oh, that's very, 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 very real. All right, folks, I know you predicted this, but welcome back to our daily dose of the Orange Democratic Movement drama. And if this past week taught us anything, it's that ODM is now less of a party and more like a full-blown political circus with multiple stages. Last Saturday, 2 completely separate ODM rallies took place. One felt like a concert. The other felt like a Siba Boy album launch. In Kakamega, the Linda Mwananchi rally led by Nairobi Senator Sifuna and the de facto ODM Secretary General was the definition of energy. While young crowds packed the grounds, chants filled the air, and even when TEARGAS was lobbed, actual TEARGAS, Sifuna didn't break a sweat. Instead, he looked at the crowd and told them, and I quote, "Zima yo TEARGAS kama nyongi ya jana."
Hatutoroki leo, zima hiyo kitu mkutano iendelee. Zima hiyo kitu mkutano iendelee, hatutoroki leo. Hatutoroki leo. Hatutoroki leo. Kitu. Zima hiyo kitu mkutano iendelee. Funika na jacket, mkutano lazima itaendelea. Tuendelee tusiendelee, hakuna siku. Leo hatutoroki.
Wanasemanga those are men. Yani wasatabo.
Zima hiyo kitu kama bangi. Zima hiyo kitu kama nyongi ya jana.
Kama nyongi. Yeah. And then there was the Embakasi East Member of Parliament, Babu Owino, who saved one of the rally's hired goons from being beaten by supporters. Because you see, in ODM's version of law and order, sometimes the person you least expect becomes the hero.
Bas! Vijana we, ona venye wameumiza huyu kijana wetu, msikimbie. Msikimbie, wacha peleke hospitali. Wacha peleke hospitali. Wacha peleke kwa gari hospitali haraka haraka. Wacha usimpige hata kama ako na shida, mpeleke tu hospitali. Ametuletea shida lakini mpeleke hospitali. Leta hapa juu. Aya, mpeleke hospitali, wacha mwache. Ni sawa, sasa imeisha. Vijana ria, vijana team, vijana tialala.
Now, contrast that with Siaya, where ODM party leader Oburu Oginga presided over a much quieter affair. The crowd was scattered, there was no tear gas, no viral catchphrase, and not even a DJ trying to keep spirits up.
DJ hakuna. Hatuna DJ.
Hatuna DJ. Wapi DJ?
DJ hakuna. Hatuna DJ.
So while one faction looked like the next big political concert, the other looked like a postponed church event where the pastor forgot to send the memo. And this contrast isn't just funny, it's politically revealing. The Sifuna Babu Owino faction seems to be stacking the youth appeal, energy, crowds that look like they're willing to stand their ground, even if it's raining, hailstones, or tear gas. Meanwhile, Oburu's camp looks like, well, let's just say less crowded than a KRG The Dawn concert. Booga! Booga! But that wasn't all that happened. On Tuesday, ODM party loyalists aligned with Oburu's camp that supports the broad-based government undertook a committee reshuffle that looked suspiciously like a political de-whipping exercise. Suba South Member Parliament Karoli Omondi, a senior Linda Mwananchi member, was kicked out of the powerful Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee, where he served as chair. And he was moved to a less influential docket. But he refused to live quietly.
It's for the benefit of the members, because members have been mistreated in this house, where political differences are brought into this house. They don't want me to chair CIOC because I'm going to oversight general elections. They want to rig the elections. That's why they don't want me in CIOC. And that is the reason. That is the reason.
His counterpart, Kitutu Chache South Member Parliament Anthony Kibagendi, lost his position as Vice Chair of the Public Investments Committee on Governance and Education. Kibagendi currently already serving a suspension from Parliament over these remarks he made on live TV that didn't sit well with some powers that be.
These are the people that are destroying our country by their sycophancy. This Honorable Madenge and this lady that has strategically refused to come to the studio, Honorable Gladys Bose-Sholay, yes, who together with the Speaker, listen to me, look here, who together with the Speaker have handed over Parliament to become an appendage of State House.
Kisumu Women Representative Ruth Odinga, yes, Oburu's own sister, was also shifted from the Agriculture Committee to a less glamorous Committee on Members' Services and Facilities. Now, we all know what that means. This is effectively a demotion. Now, okay, maybe that one belongs there. Now, ODM party leaders, including National Assembly Minority Leader Junet Mohammed, openly described this as a message to anyone who dares disagree with the ODM central position, especially on the so-called broad-based government, meaning any independent thinker.
We have given you a warning. I'm serving a warning, Mr. Speaker, as the leader of minority on my side. Anyone who will not adhere to the party line, Mr. Speaker, you will end up relinquishing your committee seat to a lesser one, Mr. Speaker, so that you get to know that it is the party that rewards people to sit in committees.
In other words, if you're with Linda Mwananchi, you might get applause on the ground, but you will get a committee downgrade. If you are with Linda Ground, you might get booed on the ground, but you will be rewarded in Parliament. So, what are the optics here? One ODM event had momentum, noise, and even crowd protection strategy. The other had DJ naps and confused passers-by wondering why they were there. Now, here is the question Kenya needs to ponder as we slide into election season. When the energized youth army and the relatively older country club crowd show up at different venues, who truly represents the pulse of the people? Think about that. But in the meantime, Sifuna now has a word of advice for people who lobbed tear gas at his rally.
I want to warn the state that it is going to take more than tear gas now to stop the voice and the movement of the people. They have to try something else. Let them try bees from wherever it is they can get bees or something like that. But it is not going to be possible.
Speaking about being as busy as a bee, today we are comparing two countries, two decisions, and one very large check from the United States. Because this week, Zimbabwe rejected a $367 million US health funding package under Washington's New America First Global Health Strategy. Now, that is likely over 47.3 billion Kenya shillings. Yes, they rejected it politely, quietly, and publicly. Now, Zimbabwe's government said that the funding terms raised concerns about national sovereignty and external control over public health policy. They argued that while health funding is welcome and any argument that appears to dictate domestic policy is unacceptable. Now, the government claimed that the deal was tied to comprehensive access of Zimbabwe's sensitive health data, including virus samples and epidemiological information that its citizens have. Whew, I say the word. President Emmerson basically said, thank you for the money, but not at the cost of our autonomy. Now here's the twist. While Zimbabwe was drawing a red line in the sand, Kenya was doing something slightly different. Kenya has continued to engage U.S. health cooperation frameworks, including expanded funding under U.S. global health initiatives targeting HIV, maternal health, disease surveillance, and public health systems. So let's pause here. Two African nations, same American push, two completely different diplomatic moods. Zimbabwe says, we will not mortgage our sovereignty, but our dear Kenya counters, we'll partner, but on a mutually agreed terms. Now, to be fair, Zimbabwe's suspicion isn't coming from nowhere. Now, the US America First framing has been widely interpreted as prioritizing American strategic interest. Now, under the policy, funding mechanisms often include strict reporting requirements, oversight structures, and program alignment clauses. In diplomatic English, that's called accountability. In political English, that's called leverage. And Zimbabwe's clearly read the fine print. Meanwhile, in Kenya, whose health system still depends significantly on foreign-funded HIV and vaccine programs, likely chose pragmatism. According to data from the Kenya Ministry of Health, U.S. funding has historically supported HIV treatment programs that are serving millions of Kenyans. Now, that's not politics, that is infrastructure. So, now the continental debate begins. Is rejecting 47.3 billion Kenya shillings an act of courage or an act of costly pride? Is accepting American funding smart pragmatism or quiet dependency? Because sovereignty is powerful in press conferences, but medicine is powerful in emergency rooms. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Every developing nation walks this tightrope. Too much foreign influence, you lose control. Too little cooperation, you lose funding capacity. Zimbabwe chose symbolism and control. Kenya chose structured partnership and continuity. The United States, for its part, now says it will cut down all health assistance to Zimbabwe after this rejection. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is how geopolitics works. Because in international relations, there are no free lunches. No, just sponsored ones. Now, this next story sounds like something you'd hear from your analog father who insists that the Wi-Fi is slow because you're holding it wrong. According to the government, politicians are now tear-gassing themselves. Yes, not metamorphically, not emotionally, physically, with actual canisters. Last weekend in Kakamega, the ODM Linda Mwananchi faction held a rally, and just as Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna was about to speak, tear gas was lobbed into the crowd.
Asante. Kakamega oye. Hatutoroki leo. Zima hiyo kitu mkutano iendelee. Zima hiyo kitu mkutano iendelee. Hatutoroki leo. Hatutoroki leo. Hatutoroki leo. Kitu. Zima hiyo kitu mkutano iendelee. Funika na jacket. Funika na jacket, mkutano lazima itaendelea. Tuendelee tusiendelee, hakuna siku. Leo hatutoroki.
Wanasemanga those are men. Yani wasazabo.
Zima hiyo kitu kama bangi. Zima hiyo kitu kama nyongi ya jana. Vijana murudi. Leo hakuna mkutano inaisha.
Supporters scattered, some coughed, some ran. Some did the half-run, half-walk Kenyan thing where you don't want to look panicked, but your lungs have already resigned. And then came Kisii, where the united opposition spent 3 days. And across those 3 days, they were tear-gassed multiple times. And at this point, if tear gas had a loyalty card, someone in Kisii would qualify for a free one. But Now here's where things get a bit creative. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen says that the police were not responsible. No, instead he suggests these leaders may have tear-gassed themselves to gain sympathy.
So I want to request politicians, wale walikuwa Kakamega jana, wale walikuwa Nyeri, wale wamekuwa Nairobi, nendeni mikutano kwa amani, nenda mkutano tutaweka polisi kwa hiyo mkutano, lakini msitupatie hii comedy yenye mnaenda mkutano na teargas, unaenda mkutano kuenda kujilinga teargas mwenyewe, na unaenda mkutano kama umebeba majambazi na maguns na visu na mawe na marungu. That we will deal with it firmly.
Let's just sit with that. Self-tear-gassing. So now we must imagine a Kenyan politician waking up in the morning and packing for a rally, sort of like this. Phone, check. Wallet, check. Handkerchief, check. And 2 industrial-grade tear-gas canisters, boom, 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 just in case I need emotional support. Are we saying that they arrive at the venue, greet the crowd, wave at Mama Mboga, then whisper to their bodyguards, "Psst, John, take like a premium song, Mazaya. Today we suffer convincingly." What is this? Political content creation? Because the logistics alone don't make sense. Tear gas is not groundnuts. You don't just buy it from a kiosk next to airtime and roasted maize. You don't pick it up from a supermarket with a loyalty card. Excuse me and say, "Can I have a lemon-scented democracy distractor? Tafadhali tuyo kidogo sikali." Let's think this through carefully, please. If politicians are carrying their own tear gas, number 1, who trained them? Number 2, where did they get it? Are we outsourcing riot control to campaign teams now? Is this the new hustler model? Vertical integration of chaos? Because if leaders are capable of professionally deploying crowd control equipment on themselves, then congratulations. We have accidentally discovered Kenya's most efficient private security firms. But here's a problem though. When citizens see smoke in a rally and start coughing, they are not thinking about PR strategy, they are thinking about oxygen. They're thinking about their lives. And when the official explanation is they did it to themselves, then something very dangerous happens. Not physically, of course, intellectually, because now every event becomes a magic trick. Smoke appears and responsibility disappears. You know, Kenyans, we can handle bad traffic, we can handle fuel prices, we can even handle KPLC timing us like a sport, but please don't insult our intelligence. This is not about which side of politics you support. It's about whether basic explanations still respect basic logic. Because once we normalize self-tear-gassing as a concept, next week it will be they arrested themselves, they kidnapped themselves, they even rigged themselves. And by December, inflation will be self-inflicted too. Kenyans deserve better explanations than science fiction, because when the smoke clears, it shouldn't reveal more smoke. It should actually reveal accountability. Well, that's our show for today, folks. Now, if there's one thing Kenya has perfected, it is resilience. We survive traffic, we survive fuel prices, we survive KPLC like it's a seasonal flu, but surviving explanations, now that one takes just a little bit more efforts. So as you go to bed tonight, remember this: democracy works best when memory works too. Don't forget the numbers, don't forget the promises, and definitely don't forget who paid for what. Because long after the ribbon is cut and the speech is paid, the bill remains. As always, this has been Hold My Mic with me, Willis Raburu. See you on the next one. Whatever!
Hold my mic, hold my mic, hold my mic, yeah, yo, hold my mic, hey, hold my mic.